Welcome to 8-Minute Masterpieces, where we turn classic literature into bite-sized experiences. Today, we're diving into Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, a profound tale of guilt, morality, and redemption. Let's begin. The story opens with Rodion Raskolnikov, an impoverished ex-student in St. Petersburg, struggling with deep philosophical thoughts. He's obsessed with the idea that some people are above the law, and he believes that extraordinary individuals, like Napoleon, are permitted to break moral codes if their actions serve a greater purpose. This radical theory fuels his belief that he can murder a pawnbroker, Alyona Ivanovna, without consequence. After days of internal debate, filled with self-doubt and bursts of manic confidence, Raskolnikov carries out his plan. He strikes Alyona with an axe, but is caught off guard when her kind-hearted sister Lizaveta arrives. In a panic, Raskolnikov kills her too, then flees the scene with very little money. The weight of his actions sinks in, and back in his cramped apartment, Raskolnikov collapses, feeling overwhelmed by a mix of terror and confusion. Already, he's not the extraordinary person he thought himself to be. Following the crime, Raskolnikov spirals into a feverish state, both physically ill and mentally tormented. His mind is consumed with paranoia, and he becomes convinced that others suspect him, even though there is no clear evidence against him yet. His guilt manifests in strange ways. He revisits the crime scene, as if drawn by a perverse compulsion to relive the act, all the while battling his inner demons. Detective Porfiry enters the scene as a sharp, observant investigator. Though he doesn't directly accuse Raskolnikov, his psychological tactics like probing questions and philosophical musings about morality start to unnerve Raskolnikov. Porfiry's presence looms large, a constant reminder that justice might be closing in. Every time Raskolnikov encounters him, his paranoia deepens. His guilt becomes a suffocating burden, driving him to the edge of insanity. At his lowest point, Raskolnikov encounters Sonia, a young woman forced into prostitution to support her family. Sonia, despite her suffering, possesses a deep spiritual faith and remains pure-hearted. Her quiet dignity and unwavering belief in salvation through suffering resonate with Raskolnikov, who begins to see her as a beacon of hope. Their bond grows, and eventually, in a moment of desperation, Raskolnikov confesses to her that he is the murderer. Sonia reacts with a mixture of sorrow and compassion, urging him to seek redemption. She believes that through confession and penance, Raskolnikov can find forgiveness. Meanwhile, Porfiry's investigation continues to loom over Raskolnikov, and he feels the noose tightening. Sonia's belief in redemption contrasts starkly with his crumbling view of himself as an extraordinary man. As Raskolnikov's mental state deteriorates, Porfiry's investigation becomes more intense. Porfiry, unlike most detectives, doesn't rely solely on evidence. He employs psychological manipulation to wear Raskolnikov down. Each conversation between the two feels like a battle of wits, but Raskolnikov finds himself losing control, growing increasingly erratic in his behavior. At the same time, Raskolnikov's personal life grows more chaotic. His sister, Dunya, is embroiled in a troubling engagement to Luzhin, a manipulative man who seeks to control her. Raskolnikov's relationship with his mother also becomes strained, as she worries about his well-being. These external pressures mirror his internal crisis, and soon, Raskolnikov is teetering on the brink of collapse. His guilt festers, and Porfiry's suspicions seem almost prophetic. The weight of the crime is more than he can bear, and he inches closer to the edge of a breakdown. In the end, the tension becomes too much for Raskolnikov to handle. He can no longer live with the crushing guilt and constant fear of being caught. In a moment of surrender, he finally goes to the police and confesses to the murders of Alyona and Lizaveta. Porfiry, who had suspected him all along, listens calmly, understanding that Raskolnikov's punishment has already been unfolding in his mind since the day of the crime. Raskolnikov is sentenced to a Siberian labor camp, where his official punishment begins. Initially, he remains defiant, refusing to acknowledge the full extent of his guilt or the need for repentance. But Sonia's faithful visits to the camp slowly begin to chip away at his defenses. Through her persistent love and unwavering faith, Raskolnikov starts to entertain the idea of redemption. His journey isn't over yet, but the seeds of transformation are planted. Punishment delves deeply into the psychological and moral consequences of crime. At its heart is Raskolnikov's theory that extraordinary people can operate outside moral law. His attempt to live out this philosophy is a failure, leading to his psychological torment and downfall. Dostoevsky uses Raskolnikov to explore the nature of guilt. It's clear that no external punishment compares to the torment of living with a guilty conscience. Sonia, with her unwavering belief in redemption, represents the potential for moral and spiritual salvation, even for those who have committed heinous crimes. Her character contrasts sharply with Raskolnikov's nihilism, showing that faith and love can offer a path to redemption. Porfiry, on the other hand, represents the quiet but persistent force of justice. He understands that Raskolnikov's true punishment lies not in the law, but in his own mind. This psychological approach to crime is what makes Crime and Punishment such a profound and enduring work of literature. Thanks for watching 8-Minute Masterpieces. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Crime and Punishment, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Is redemption possible for everyone? Let's discuss.